Happy New Year, my dear student. How are you? I am also fine. Now we are going to discuss uh, two women, in each first paper. Uh, at first, we should introduce ourselves with vocabulary. Word meaning textile, বস্ত্রবয়ন সংক্রান্ত, প্লান্ট কারখানা, প্যারাশুট অবতরণ সূত্র, এক্সপার্টাইজ দক্ষতা, কসমোনাট মহাকাশচারী, ফ্লাইট উড্ডয়ন, আন্ডারগো অতিক্রম করা, লঞ্চ উৎক্ষেপণ, স্পেস শাটল মহাকাশগামী যান, নোয়েসিয়া বহির্ভূমি ভাগ, লগ লিপিবদ্ধ করা, রিজাইন শাসন ব্যবস্থা, প্রেসিডিয়াম সভাপতি মণ্ডলী, লিজেন্ড কিংবদন্তি, এক্সপ্রেস ব্যক্ত করা, ডিটারমাইন্ড দৃঢ় সংকল্প করা, টেক অফ উড্ডয়ন, ক্যারিয়ার পেশা, রিট্রাই পুনরুদ্ধার করা, কন্ডাক্ট পরিচালনা করা, ডিসইন্টিগ্রেট খণ্ড বিখণ্ড হয়ে যাওয়া, ফ্যাটাল মারাত্মক, পিল অফ খুলে আসা, ইন্টেন্স তীব্র এবং পেনিট্রেট অভ্যন্তরে প্রবেশ করা। নাও we are going to discuss about two women. One is Valentina Tereshkova and other is Kalpana Chawla. Our today's lesson is about two brave women who stepped to the outer world. They both made a huge turn in history. Valentina Tereshkova, born in Central Russia, was the first woman in the world history who traveled the space in 1963. She made a successful journey and came back to Earth safely. Though Tereshkova was a working class lady, she had a vision and she was selected from the list of more than 400 applicants. She spent more than 3 days in space and made 48 rounds around the Earth. Long after she got her doctorate in engineering in 1977 and became a presidium member of the Supreme Soviet. Still now she wants to travel the Mars at her very old age. Likewise, Kalpana Chawla was the first Indian woman to travel to the space. This South Indian lady successfully completed her education in aerospace engineering from India and the USA. She started working for NASA with a desire to be an astronaut. She made her first voyage in 1997 and the second one in 2003. Unfortunately, she died along with her fellow crews in the second voyage. Kalpana showed enormous courage to go to the outer space for the second time, despite knowing all about the risk. These two women have created an unprecedented history which can be followed by the ambitious women in all respects. Now we are going to read the text. Valentina Tereshkova was born in the village Maslenikovo Totevsky district in central Russia. We know that Valentina Tereshkova is a Russian citizen. Tereshkova's father was a tractor driver and her mother worked in a textile plant. Tereshkova began school in 1945 at the age of 8, but left school in 1953 and continued her education through distance learning. She became interested in parachuting from a young age and trained in skydiving at the local aero club, making her first jump at age 22 on 21st May 1959. At that time, she was employed as a textile worker in a local factory. It was her expertise in skydiving that led to her selection as a cosmonaut. From this passage we know that Valentina Tereskova is a Russian citizen and she began school in 1945 at the age of 8 and left school in 1953 and continued her education through distance learning. Gradually, she became interested in parachuting from a young age and he took training in skydiving. After the flight of Yuri Gagarin, who is Yuri Gagarin? Yuri Gagarin is the first human being to travel to outer space in 1961. The Soviet Union decided to send a woman in space on 16 February 1962. Proletaria Valentina Tereskova was selected for this project from among more than 400 applicants. Tereskova had to undergo a series of training that included weightless flights, isolation tests, centrifuge tests, rocket theory, spacecraft engineering, 120 parachute jumps and pilot training in MiG-15 UTI jet fighters. These trainings helped her to select as an astronaut. Since the successful launch of the spacecraft Vostok 5 on 14 June 1963, Tereskova began preparing for her own flight. On the morning of 16 June 1963, Tereskova and her backup cosmonaut Solvova were dressed in spacesuits and taken to the space shuttle launch pad by a bus. After completing her communication and life support checks, she was sealed inside Vostok 6, finishing a 2-hour countdown. Vostok 6 launched faultlessly. Although Tereskova experienced nausea and physical discomfort for much of the flight, she orbited the Earth 48 times and spent almost 3 days in space. With a single flight, she logged more flight time than the combined times of all American astronauts who had flown before that date. Tereskova also maintained a flight log and took photographs of the horizon, which were later used to identify aerosol layers within the atmosphere. Vostok 6 was the final Vostok flight and was launched 2 days after Vostok 5, which carried Valery Voyakovsky into a similar orbit for 5 days. Landing 3 hours after Tereskova, the two vessels approached each other within 5 kilometers at one point. And from space, Tereskova communicated with Voyakovsky and the Soviet leader Khrushchev by radio. She is the successful astronaut. Much later, in 1977, Tereskova earned a doctorate in engineering from Zhukovsky Air Force Academy. Afterwards, she turned to politics during the Soviet regime. She became one of the presidium members of the Supreme Soviet. Now, this living legend is a member in the lower house of the Russian legislature. On her 17th birthday, when she was invited by the Russian Prime Minister Vladimir Putin, she expressed her desire to fly to Mars, even if for a one-way trip. What do we know about Valentina Tereskova? Valentina Tereskova was a Russian cosmonaut She was from an ordinary family. She was interested in parachuting and skydiving. After the flight of Yuri Gagarin to outer space, the Soviet Union decided to send a woman in the space. Valentina was selected for this project from among more than 400 applicants. She underwent a series of training required for the space travel. In the spaceship, she felt nausea and physical discomfort. Now, we are going to discuss about Kalpana Chawla. Kalpana Chawla was an Indian born woman. Chawla was born in Karnal, India. She completed her earlier schooling at Tagore Bal Niketan Senior Secondary School, Karnal. She is the first Indian born woman and the second person in space from this subcontinent. After graduating in aeronautical engineering from Punjab Engineering College, India, in 1982, Chawla moved to the United States the same year. She obtained her master's degree in aerospace engineering from the University of Texas in 1984. Later, she did her PhD in aerospace engineering in 1988 from the University of Colorado. Determined to become astronaut even in the space of Challenger disaster in 1986 that broke apart 73 seconds into its flight, leading to the deaths of its 7 crew members. Chawla joined NASA in 1988. She began working as a vice president where she did computational fluid dynamics, research on vertical takeoff and landing. In 1991, she got US citizenship and started her career as a NASA astronaut in 1995. She was selected for her first flight in 1996. She spoke the following words while traveling in the weightlessness of space: "You are just pure intelligence." She had traveled 10.67 million miles, as many as 252 times around the Earth. Her first space mission STS-87, began on 19 November 1997 with 6 other astronauts on the Space Shuttle Columbia. On her first mission that lasted for 15 days, 6 hours, 34 minutes and 4 seconds, she traveled 6.5 billion miles. She was responsible for deploying the Spartan satellite, which however malfunctioned, necessitating a spacewalk by Winston Scott and Crocodile, 2 of her fellow astronauts, to retrieve the satellite. In 2000, she was selected for her second space mission STS-107. This mission was repeatedly delayed due to scheduling conflicts and technical problems. On 16 January 2003, Kalpana Chawla finally started her new mission with 6 other space crew on the ill-fated Space Shuttle Columbia. She was one of the mission specialists. Chawla's responsibilities included the microgravity experiments, for which the crew conducted nearly 18 experiments studying Earth and space science. Advanced technology development and astronaut health and safety. After a 16-day scientific mission in space on 1st February 2003, Columbia disintegrated over Texas during its re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere. All the crew in Columbia, including Chawla, died only 16 minutes prior to their scheduled landing. Investigation shows that this fatal accident happened due to a damage in one of Columbia's wings caused by a piece of insulating foam from the external fuel tank peeling off during the launch. During the intense of re-entry, hot gases penetrated the interior of the wing, destroying the support structure and causing the rest of the shuttle to break down. From the text, we have come to know that Valentina Tereskova hailed from Russia. Her father was a tractor driver and her mother worked in a textile plant. And she was interested in parachuting and trained in skydiving. In fact, it was the skill of skydiving that gave her the opportunity to be a cosmonaut. She had nausea and physical discomfort, yet she orbited the Earth 48 times and spent 3 days there. And she earned a doctorate in engineering from Joe Kobuski Air Force Academy. Later, she turned to politics. And she became the presidium members of the Supreme Soviet during Soviet regime. Now she is a member in the lower house of the Russian legislature. And she also expressed her desire to fly to the Mars. Let's now talk about Kalpana Chawla. Kalpana Chawla is the first woman of Indian origin and the second person from Indian subcontinent to travel to the space. After completing her graduation in aeronautical engineering, she moved to the USA. She then went on doing her PhD in aeronautical engineering. When did she join NASA? She joined NASA in 1988. She made her first space mission in 1997. The mission was called STS-87. It lasted for 15 days. At that time, she traveled 6.5 million miles. Her second mission was called STS-107. There, she worked as one of the mission specialists. During her second mission, she met with an accident in the spaceship where she, along with her fellow crews, died. So, we came to know the two legends. First is Valentina Tereskova and other is Kalpana Chawla. First one is Russian citizen and last one is Indian citizen. And both Valentina Tereskova and Kalpana Chawla made history by traveling to the outer space. Valentina was from Russia and Kalpana from India. They were both engineers. However, Valentina excelled in skydiving. She was also skilled in parachuting. She was the first woman in the world to travel to the outer space when the Soviet Union decided to send a woman into the space. She was selected for this project from among more than 400 applicants. On the other hand, Kalpana Chawla was the first woman of Indian origin to travel to the outer space. After graduation, she moved to the USA and completed her master's in aerospace engineering and also PhD in the same field. Valentina traveled to space boarding Vostok 6. Kalpana traveled by Columbia. Valentina underwent physical troubles in the spaceship, but still she orbited, and Kalpana died in a spaceship accident. Let us finish our class. See you again in our next class.